See that? You can just go link it up. Yeah, man. Say do that. Yeah, fuck yo. You know some more make us show on Insta. Come in that flower. So, come on, man. I read this about. That's true, right? There's a bit that reach. Come in. How can you agree like that?
Hold! Hold, take off your shoes!
So you know that word? That means
Are you?
Yeah, man, yeah, me, man.
We are the back again.
so you come here already?
Go on and work for you, that's it, and talk to you.
Sit down.
Yo, mobile. You know what I say, tell you the truth, if I want you move, man.
Shut up. Shut up.
Yeah, man, she
Nah,
not
move right. Nah, move right.
Yeah. Oh, you know.
Do everything. Like, carry sheet.
You know, if I'm big man, if I want to walk one still, you know. Yeah. Can't read that from me.
Give me the right thing to look in your pocket. This feels sharp. This. Read up a fire.
Yes, what's it?
To see.
Hi guys, welcome to class. Welcome to Caribbean Thought class, lecture 9. I see Alicia here, Chanel, Gavion. Felmin is not here, and Alan is not here. We'll wait for them to come. But welcome to the class, guys. We have a lot to cover. How were the holidays for you guys? How have you guys been? How has the week been so far for you guys? We never had a class last week, but how have you guys been so far?
Sir, we had class, didn't we? Sir, no. I think last week was mid-semester. Sir, I messaged you during that time, I think. I don't know if it's during that time or before, or when the class ended. I messaged you, sir, but you didn't respond, and I need to know how the assignments are going so I can know what to do.
Well, I've only asked you guys. Well, I've asked you guys to. You only have. I know there's a midterm. There's a proposal paper that you guys have to submit at sometime this month, I think. Providing a proposal of your final. Your final is an essay, which I wanted to spend some time to talk about again today in this class. In fact, the lecture today, I was hoping that I can finish talking about Islands of the Caribbean, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I want to take a break from that, and I also want to spend some time looking at diverse currents in the Caribbean, continue to explore various individuals, various minds, various critical thinkers, and dynamics that has helped to shape the Caribbean. So for example, at some point we will have to watch the film Life and Death and Who Shot the Sheriff, and by extension, and those two films are very important to this class, to my class. And I know we have about 4 more classes left, I believe. So if not this week, next week, we have to watch Life and Death. In addition to that, there is also, I know you guys have to do that, watch that film and do a reflection paper on the film. So the second, but you have to do I need a proposal on the research that you're doing in terms of public could do. And I said to you can use my proposal that I have that's available, which I think I'm going to spend some time to go over in this class again, and show you what I have, and then you can mirror that. So basically you have a final research paper, a midterm proposal, and just the exam. That's all you guys have to do for classes. There is some reflection papers that I asked you to do. One of the reflection which goes towards your participation. Some of the requirements or some of the stuff I ask you to do is not necessarily grading, but it's just to get you up to speed and get you acclimated and involved in the class and for your own learning. So I think you guys were supposed to. Last week I'd asked you guys to spend some time to start thinking about, to watch the lectures, reflect on the lectures. That's very important. Continue to review the syllabus and read the material that's there. Continue to go onto JTS online. Materials are there for you to read. But as for this class, the only thing that you will be graded on the 3 pieces of graded material will be the exam, the midterm, which is not a lot of grade, and the final. The final and the exam is the most important thing that you're going to be graded for. I did ask you guys to do, and I saw Alice's paper earlier today. I read Alice's paper today, looking at exploring her heritage. I think you guys were supposed to do something to that effect. And there is a piece of assignment that's online that you guys are submitted. Once you do it and submit it, it's automatically graded. Once you completed it, the assignment was just for you to complete it. I think that's about it for now. Yeah.
What assignment is that?
I think I had it's online. It's submitted to you guys. It's a competency. I suppose it's submitted. It's on JTS Online Caribbean Thought as an assignment that I had given you guys to do. But you have to submit it via the online portal, and then once you submit it and complete it, then that's it. I think that was about it. If you did not, I haven't checked who submitted and who haven't submitted as yet. I know you submitted a piece of work, which is good, but I think that's about it. But for now, I don't think I had provided much assignment for you guys to do in terms of graded work. It's just interact for you guys to reflect on classes and to do the heritage homework assignment. I think there's one more. I can't remember what it was. It's on JTS Online that I had submitted about 2-3 weeks ago. I'm going to revisit. I haven't been on JTS Online for a while, but I'm going to check it and see what's up there. But for now, you don't have to worry about anything. As long as you guys come to the class and engage and interact, that's important for now. And the final and the midterm and the exam, you guys just focus on that for now and continue to read and engage and acclimate yourself to the class. If you haven't done anything yet, that's fine. Get it done at some point. It will help you in your own development and as you get ready for exams and so on. But we will. There's the class before the final. I usually give a quiz, and we go over the quiz and have you guys answer the question, and we go over that. So that's fine. You guys don't have to worry too much about anything. Okay. But for today's class, however, I want you guys to do to spend some time this month looking at the midterm, which is for you guys to submit more like an essay proposal about your final exam, talking about your methodology, talking about exploring Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And in today's class, I'm going to take a break from looking at exploring the Caribbean islands, because we still have to do Martinique and Belize and Puerto Rico and so on. And I also have to still look at Walter Rodney, Basdeo Panday, Edward Siaga, Michael Manley, and the film. We have to do that, but I'm going to take a break from that now and go and focus today on Caribbean theology or theology. I want to spend some time looking at Caribbean theology today. So I'm going to do a lecture on Caribbean theology, and we are also I'm going to give you guys an activity to do today. And the activity, and if I'm going to pause my screen a bit and pull up the activity for today. You guys the activity is very interactive because it speaks to the final assignment. I actually thought that I thought you guys were late for class today, but you guys were late. I was on an hour early. I forgot about daylight savings. I had forgotten about that. But before we go, actually, I'm going to send a link to, where is that link? Here we go. Here is the link. So, and then go back to where's the Zoom? Actually, I can share this screen with you because I want to spend some time to go over the proposal today again. Go back into Zoom. I'm sharing a link because there's an activity that I want you guys to do. Okay, please visit this link and complete the questionnaire as part of class for today. Don't visit it yet, okay? Yeah, give me a second. I want each of you in the class to visit that link. I don't think any of you have so far. So I want each of you to visit the link that I have sent you in the link. And I think I want you to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour to complete that activity. So for class today, I want you guys to, but before you begin doing that, don't do it yet, okay? I want us to just, one of the things that I like to do in this class is to look at what's going on in the world today, geopolitical issues, and what's going on in the world today. There are two things. When the last class ended, I was involved in a conversation, and and I got privy to some news about Jamaica being banned. Jamaica being on. Why is it that none of you didn't tell me about the travel ban, that the US hit Jamaica with a travel ban? We have class. How come you guys didn't talk about that?
So you were so enthusiastic, so I thought I wouldn't think it wasn't a topic at the top of my head at the time.
I
But
was
then
like,
the ban was basically lifted and they apologized to us, so it was like.
So the ban was lifted. When was it lifted?
I think it was lifted sometime in February or some of this. I not remember the exact date when the ban started, when it was lifted.
Well,
but
I just learned about it and I published something quickly about the ban, because I was very upset about the ban, and because I have said that I don't really like travel bans and sneaker deals. They are tools for control. I argue that travel bans and so on, that's what people use to control other people, especially when your economy is the way it is. You're heavily dependent on tourism. When we make our society dependent on a certain kind of currency that we don't have enough, okay, and we have to depend heavily on other outside, then in other words, we are easily controlled. That's why you talk about part of what has defined the Caribbean is that we are very vulnerable. Jamaica, okay, fine. Yes, they have lifted the ban, but I was very upset about the ban because, first of all, if you look at what's going on in Jamaica, crime and violence have been dropped. I mean, when you compare last year to this year, crime last year, I mean, in January up to the beginning of January or early February, was about 81 people died, 81 murders by violent crime. And up last year, this year, that was last year. This year is just 61. Okay, about what, 20% drop in crime, and in some parts and in some cases a 40% drop in crime. So I am not, and then what we need to talk about is the fact that Jamaican Americans who go to Jamaica, some of them go places where they're not supposed to go, get themselves involved in things that they're not supposed to get involved in. The cases of violent crime stems from Jamaican Americans. Of course, there is the issue of health, because I said one of the reasons why I never go back to Jamaica or have a problem visiting Jamaica or dealing with Jamaica, and I'm Jamaican, is I don't trust our medical facilities. Medical care is not the best in Jamaica, and I continue to say that because I have my experience. I have my reason for saying that, my experience. Not that medical care here in the US doesn't have its problems, but there are some challenges I'd rather accept over others. Okay, but outside of that, I believe that it was wrong. But I'm happy that thank you for updating us with that news that they have lifted the travel ban. But one of the discussions that we need to have as Caribbean people, Black and brown people, post-colonial people, is our vulnerability does not only stem from our size, does not only stem from the fact that we're in hurricane zones, or in zones with zones where geographical regions where that has hurricanes and storms and so on and so forth. Okay, or because of stemming from we are still new compared to other countries still developing, and dealing with poverty and outside of that. I don't remember the point I was making because I went around the world. Just now, I went around the world because I was trying to exclude some factors. I don't remember the point I was making.
It was about the travel ban, sir. relating to what you said, I think they said the purpose. Okay, I'll research it. They said
Right.
the
Thank you.
travel
Hold
ban.
on. Wait. Before you, I remember now. I was talking about tools for control. We must never allow ourselves, okay, to hold ourselves as or treat ourselves as puppets, holding ourselves to to some devices or resources that people can slap on us anytime. So it's travel deals. And I believe that is part of the problem. You know, I mean, you know, when you have very wealthy people as against the global north, global south dynamic between the Caribbean countries and the developed countries. When you talk about the dynamics, our position, our wealth, oh, okay, and the fact that debt was always used to control countries of the global north, of the global south, sorry. So I believe that so fine, I'm happy that they have lifted it. However, I believe it's still we must still have the conversation. It provides an opportunity for to have the conversation as it relates to our vulnerability and how easy it is for countries like us to be controlled. Okay, okay, yes. What was that, Gavion? You wanted to make a point.
I was also saying that despite the fact that they issued a travel ban, the US issued a travel ban on some Caribbean countries such as Jamaica and the Bahamas, it backfired on them completely, where persons were insisting that they were still going to book travel to the Caribbean because crime was much worse in the US than in Jamaica. They actually felt safer in the Caribbean than over in the US. So it backfired on them entirely. Hence, realizing that they were getting a lot of backlash, they kind of lifted the ban. I think one of the reasons they put was the fact that crime was the main point or main thing for issuing the travel ban. That was what they were saying, and it backfired on them completely. So yeah, and I think it went in. I think it was issued in January, sometime in January, and then
January
they stopped
31.
talking about it. Repeat.
January 31.
Yes, it was issued in January 31, and then they stopped talking about it in February completely.
Well, okay, and I resurrected it about 2 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Or a week, yeah, 2 weeks ago, I talked about it because I wasn't privy to the fact that, but it doesn't matter. We still need, I talked about it from the perspective of us, of vulnerable countries like the Caribbean being controlled by larger countries or post-industrial countries using travel deals and so on and so forth. And as much as we celebrate tourism and the fact that we need visitors in order to get foreign exchange, in order to spend money, that's a problem. I have a problem with that. As we have countries of the Caribbean, Black and brown peoples, post-colonial peoples have to think strategically. And in order for them to be more competitive, in order for us to reinvent ourselves in the 21st century, I ask you, the Caribbean is an invention of the 20th century. What are we going to be in the 21st century and beyond? We have to be strategic and think about the industries that we are in and what we have always done over the last 20, 30, 40 years that has kept us down. Okay. So now we have to start thinking beyond that. Now, that's one thing I wanted to discuss. The second point, the second issue that's happening in the world today that I wanted to raise with us, and in fact, the issue of Haiti. Haiti is a very important issue today. The last class I talked about Haiti a little bit with what was going on with Haiti, and as at today we know that Haiti, Dr. Ariel resigned. The U.S. Anthony Blinken, I think, what U.S. People from the U.S. Department, Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken went to Jamaica to meet with some CARICOM leaders to discuss the way forward. The plan was for them to come up with a council, or transitional council that would lead towards having democratic elections. It seems as if I understand that may be stalling. The U.S. has sent additional troops to Haiti, but not to Haiti, to their embassy in Haiti, Because one of the things that I had, and by the way, I had published an article and discussed this issue of what's going on in Haiti, that it should concern all of us, because with what's going on at the border, large amount of Haitians leaving Haiti and coming across various countries in the Americas as refugees and so on, and so on. And we don't know if some of these, with the state of emergency and what's going, and the leadership crisis that's going on in Haiti, we are not sure how many Haitians are going to, how many of these Haitians who and by the way, we understand that over 98% of the prisoners broke out of prison, and they didn't break out. Okay, I mean, they were broken out. Okay, or somebody from outside, the gangs broke into the prison, okay, and opened up the prison to let them out. So that's why I said it was a prison outbreak and not a prison break. But anyways, what we're understanding is that, and so my question was that if 98% of the prisoners are out of jail, and right now, I mean, are still on the run, and there is almost, and the country's in a state of chaos, state of emergency, what's happening? And of course, there's a small militia, just so you know, there's a small militia, a small military that's helping to create calm in some places, so it's not all chaotic. We know that the police, there's also some kind of instability and corruption in the police, and the police were also part of the group, not just the gang, but also the police. They were monitoring the ports of entry or airports, monitoring the ports of monitoring the airport for the return of Ariel, because they were also adamant that he should not come back. But so that's what we know that's going on in Haiti. One of the questions I had asked as is to whether with the crisis in Haiti, the police being accused of corruption, the police chief, the leadership, police, there's corruption in the police, in the leadership, the police, in the helm of the police, because we understand that some people are reporting that the police chief is working with the gangs that led to the release of that led to the prison break. The police rank and file were protesting against the police chief. Not only that, they had overtaken the airports. There's no flight in or outside. Many Americans or locals are trapped inside the country. And so I asked, and one of the questions I asked is, I mean, even if, can we even have a Haitian-led solution with all of the crisis going on? And if we can have a Haitian-led solution, will it succeed? And already we're hearing of some problems with the council that they have. I wanted to have Father Iverson come into the class today, but I couldn't get through to him, probably next week. But I wanted to do a presentation and provide an update as to what's going on in Haiti. And by the way, kudos to Jamaica and the fact that Jamaica is positioning themselves as one of the leading countries in the Caribbean and dealing with Caribbean affairs. The fact that Caribbean countries and American and international people met in Jamaica to discuss Haiti, that was quite that was as a center talk. That was quite interesting. That was quite profound. But that's what's going on the Haitian front. One of the, by the way, I understand that Kenya is actually getting ready to send a peacekeeping force to Haiti. Sorry. And one of the questions I had asked, one of the questions I asked as it relates to the legitimacy, the constitutionality, and the legality of the installed Prime Minister, Dr. Ariel Henry, signing this treaty that would allow Kenya to send a peacekeeping mission or force to Haiti, because their courts, Kenya's courts, had rejected the request by the U.S. to send a peacekeeping force to Haiti, citing that they are not part of any bilateral agreement and they need to they need to establish bilateral relations. So Dr. Ariel was there in Kenya, signing a treaty that would enter the two countries, that open the countries that would start the bilateral relationship between the two countries, which would include sending peacekeeping a peacekeeping force there. But I had argued that, first of all, he was not the president. Dr. Ariel Henry is not the president of Haiti. One, two, he was installed by an external body, not by the people of Haiti. And three, while there, he was asked not to come back, which ultimately led to his exile and his demise. And so one of the questions for consideration is whether or not the treaty that was signed is constitutional or legitimate. Whether, okay, that's the question. But of course, Haiti is under a state of emergency. But whether or not that's the case, that the question is still fair. Whether or not Kenya's relationship with Haiti is legitimate. And that's a question that probably you guys can answer, and I probably can't answer. However, it's a very good question. That it's a legal question. It's a very effective and legal and a question that speaks to constitutionality and the issue of democracy. It's an issue of democracy as well, which I hope that that probably in the future, somebody will bring a lawsuit challenging the constitutionality of the relationship. I don't know, but that's one news that's happening in the world today. Anybody have anything to share as it relates to what's going on in Haiti, Jamaica's involvement today, or any news about CARICOM and what's happening? I understand that anybody knows what's going on in Haiti today, or the latest coming out of Haiti?
I don't know what's going on in Haiti. I do know that CARICOM is discussing something with other Caribbean islands where other nationals can come, like basically trade skills with each other. They're making it like a free pass. They don't really need a visa to go on certain places. It's just more free, like free travel. Really, it's like a work. You're not able to work in other countries freely. That's what they're establishing. And Jamaica is also a part of the discussion with Haiti as it relates to what they're doing. And they're discussing the amount of money they plan to implement into this entire Haiti thing. That's what I know. So.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was good. Let's put it on my screen. I'm trying to hide self-view gallery. Let's do this. All right, there we go. All right, thank you for that. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything? Know anything about what's going on in Haiti? Anyway, but I have by the way, there's one question I have as it relates to the Haiti. I have a question for you guys. And based on all that we have been talking about, in addition to those questions or concerns I have as it relates to the treaty or the bilateral relationship between Haiti and Kenya, another concern I have is, first of all, the news were reporting that gangs wanted Dr. Ariel Henry gone. That's not true. It's a majority of the population. Even the police were monitoring the airports against Ariel's return. And but outside of that, one very powerful, a powerful point I wanted to make is this: Dr. Ariel Henry snubbed at the Haitian people. Do you believe that Dr. Ariel Henry, do you agree with me? I said to you guys, Dr. Ariel Henry, he snubbed at the Haitian people. The resignation, he resigned, but he snubbed at the Haitian people. Do you know why I said that? Do you agree with me? Why would anybody say that Dr. Ariel Henry snubbed at the Haitian people? Dr. Ariel Henry being the formerly installed Prime Minister of Haiti, who just resigned. Why did I say that he snubbed at the Haitian people?
Sure, sir.
when you listen to what I'm saying, and you know what I mean by to snub at something, and maybe I should say he belittled. He belittled.
Do you mean in terms of what it took for him to actually resign?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes,
He
then
belittled it. Yes, he snubbed at their he only resigned at the request. Yes, Alisa, very good, very good. Oh, amazing, beautiful. He only resigned at the request of the US, not by the protestation of his own people who had rejected him. His own people rejected him, and he did not step down or resign. It was not until the US asked him to step down or to resign that he decided to step down. What does that say of not just Haiti, but Caribbean democracy, independence, and sovereignty? The fact that Dr. Ariel Henry would not even Dr. Ariel Henry snub at not just and to snub at his own people's request is also, I said, belittle, to dilute, and to reduce the efficacy and value of one's own independence and sovereignty. He only resigned at the request of the US, not by the protestation of his own people who had rejected him. And of course, that speaks to the whole issue of, and I'm saying to you, it goes to show how much value, the little value that is placed on our independence, even by our own people, because of greed and the external. Okay, one of the things I have said in my book, the first book, NeoLiberalism, I talk about what we talk about the issue of penetration and how the external, how other post-industrial countries continue their dominance, and even after independence, what happened is that the elites, they were, there's always country, there's all these countries have a local elite, a group of people who stand to benefit from a country's vulnerability, okay, by continuing to, and in a sense, I call these people house slave, or we call it the house slave mentality, okay, where among the slaves, there were a few who were precious and special pets of the master, which continues today in various forms. Okay. All right. I have said that. We talk about especially especially with what went on in Grenada, or what went on in even in Jamaica. Many people thought that Edward Seaga was a puppet of Ronald Reagan, who introduced a kind of Reaganomics, a kind of mixed economy with a lot of Reaganomics embedded in that. There are people who accuse him of that. I'm not saying that he is, but appealing to the external over the internal and what the people wants. That's important, and that a lot, when you look at a lot of ways and strategies of when you study control, when you study power, and power uses means to control, and you start to study control, one of the things when you start and you study colonization, with the first class, we talk about the difference between fence, what the symbiotic relationship between fence and so on. We talk what does fence have in relationship with colonization. One of the things I talk about, the issue of control. And when you start to study control, one of the things that people do to control is to first to redefine you, to redefine the thing. Okay, you first redefine a thing and you redefine it because you redefine it into something that involves stripping away a thing's value. Frantz Fanon talks about colonization as the depersonalization of the self. of one's humanity. So it's to depersonalize the person of one's personhood or humanness. Okay, colonization involves stripping away the individual, and when you study again the transatlantic movement, and we initially, when you look at the transatlantic movement, of course, one of the things that was done was that it involves the enslavement of a people, of African people. And one of the ways that they were able, dignified nations that appealed to God was able to justify and find support from the church in order to enslave a whole set of people, was to appeal to a theory that was just a theory. It was, in fact, a theory that was on the back shelves of academia, talking about race, because race was not part of the conversation of the day. Eventually, race became part of academia in order to support and justify those capitalists or the wealthy who wanted to prove to their countrymen and to themselves, to dignify why they would enslave a whole set of people. That's part of control. Okay, you redefine a thing, and then you find evidence that's unjustifiable to support and to justify your action. See, for example, we heard in one of the lectures in this class, we talk about Christian nationalists. Many people who attacked the US Capitol on January 6th, causing an insurrection, and now saying that they're Christian nationalists, appealing to God, saying that, yes, in your eyes and in the Constitution, what we did was wrong. But we do not appeal to man's law, we appeal to God's law. Okay? So they appeal to God's law, saying that they are appealing to God. Like many people even appeal to the Bible to have slaves. So when you start to study colonization, is to study control, it's to study power, it's to study privilege. Okay? And we talk about colonization is the depersonalization of. So that's very important when you start to study colonization and control and power and people. But anyways, the point I was getting at, I was making the point how Dr. Ariel snubbed at his own people's request, and Dr. Ariel, in some senses, you could consider him as a modern day house slave doing the bidding of those who put him there to whip the people. But guess what? The people were more powerful than he was, and they are smart. They knew that if he went to Nairobi, they would have ultimately exiled him and would have got what they want. Quite interesting. And the final point that I want to make as it relates to geopolitical issues that's going on in the world today, I want to raise a point about artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, and I wrote something about that recently. Let me see if I can bring that up. That's the last point I want to make about artificial intelligence. AI technology. Let me ask you guys a question as it relates to AI. Some time ago, what's going on with this? All right, here we go. I have a question for you guys. Let me there's been much talk about artificial intelligence, and I don't know how you guys feel about AI. And recently, there've been much talk about AI and how, and we won't have time to delve into AI technology, but I believe that that's one of the things that we need to add to the syllabus in this class. Because I don't think there was much talk about AI technology when we developed the syllabus for this course, but artificial intelligence and how that provides an opportunity for the Caribbean and Caribbean people. We can't get left behind. Caribbean people have to, and the government and so on, we have to look to the future. And if we are to be competitive, we have to think about what happened in the past and how we're going to get ahead. Part of reinventing ourselves is, yes, as much as the challenges that's faced in the Caribbean, that we have to take advantage of the opportunities that artificial intelligence provides. And there are those who are saying that, yeah, okay, artificial intelligence poses a threat to humanity. Many people believe that artificial intelligence is the death of humanity. Humanity will be extinct eventually. And when you start to look at what technology or industrialization has done to the world, it has really left some people behind. And when you start to study societies, certain societies, even within the post-industrial society, and you start to look at Philadelphia and the community called Kensington, and a lot of immigrants had settled there, and many of them came to work, and many of them work in industries. In Kensington today, it look like a fifth world country. Many parts of Jamaica, in some parts of Jamaica, the poorest part of Jamaica look even better than part of Kensington, and it looked like it. When you go to, if you were to visit Philadelphia and go to a place called Kensington, even some parts of the US today, it resembles shanty towns that you would never believe exist in a post-industrial country. Part of that stems from the industrialization, because what is that? The technology helped to take away some jobs, where some people, while there were opportunities for people to reskill and retool, it just wasn't enough. There wasn't enough and to reskill and retool, and by that, some people, there had been some families had already fallen into abject poverty, and the decay had already started. The cycle had already started, and cycle after cycle, okay, children and grandchildren and great grandchildren moved into poverty and abject poverty. And if you go into Kensington today, you find the decadence of that society. You find opioids and drugs that reign supreme, and poverty and high homelessness, and so on and so forth.
I'm sorry,
Because,
sir. Did you
yes,
mention race or no?
sorry,
Did you mention the race of the persons in that community or no?
some people are white. Yeah, some people are white. Some people are black. A lot of people are from Puerto Rico. Some of them come from Puerto Rico, Dominica. A lot of them are Latinos or white Hispanic people. You have one or two Caucasian people there who are also suffering from the industrialization, but many of them in that community are mixed race, or people who are from a lot of Latino people or Irish people who had came to settle in Philadelphia and were working the factories and doing manufacturing and the industries and so on and so forth. So many of them are from of that makeup. But so we've seen what deindustrialization can do. But I said to people, not really. It's not. And at some point, I guess I'll have to. At some point, I can have a. It's in the second book that I'm writing. I talk at length about artificial intelligence and delve into the numbers. But there's a question that I want us to consider for critical reflection, or for your own reflection. And I said, let me make it clear. In a blog, I said, let me make it clear. Artificial intelligence technology does not threaten human existence. It does not threaten human existence today or tomorrow. If anything, artificial intelligence technology challenges humanity's ways of life. If anything, artificial intelligence technology challenges humanity's ways of life, centered around the dialectic of whether we live to work or work to live, and the earnings or currencies we have tied to the weight we place on types of work. Let me say that again. There are those persons, and before class, I was trying to find a blog or two scientists and some business people and so on, and it's in the news lately. There are people who are for, let me tell you, artificial intelligence provides opportunities for people, but it also provides opportunities for everybody on every side. There are those who can use, and I say to people, just as how the Bible can be used to support slavery, AI technology can be used to support bad actions of people that continue their privilege in society today. And that is why the kind of policy surrounding artificial technology should be one that ensures that it is equitable. Ones that, okay, the type of policy that needs to be considered is one that promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. And not only that, AI technology also helps small businesses who cannot afford to hire staff to do some things. Similarly, well, what about people? Okay, that means we're getting rid of those. I mean, if people can't afford to hire staff and then they use the technology, then what about those people who need those jobs? I'm like, but in the first place, those jobs would not exist if we can't hire people to do it. But now we have the technology. Now we have jobs that provide certain services to society. Let me say this again. People argue that I'm going to say this. AI technology will provide opportunity for people on both sides of the spectrum. Okay, those who want to use it for good, as against those who want to use it for bad. Those who want to continue their dominance and their privilege, those who want to continue their advantageous positions, and there are those whose advantageous positions are threatened by AI technology, because now other persons can limit their expenses and maximize their profits because they have the technology that can help them to maximize their bottom line. But there are those like small mamas and papa stores, corner shops, or global south countries that cannot afford to hire staffing and the resources and the technology in order to provide certain services. And with AI technology, it helps them, it puts them ahead of the game, it provides them the abilities to do things that they can't do. Not only that, it helps to provide a level playing field, and it makes them more competitive. That is a challenge to those who are already in the game. So when you look at it on that broader lens, then it puts things into perspective. AI technology is good and it's also bad. Now, AI technology, yes, there are people who write and so on, and writers are saying it's affecting their jobs and so on and so forth. And I say to people, AI technology does not threaten human existence today or tomorrow. If anything, it challenges humanity's ways of life. It does not threaten human existence today in this or tomorrow, in the sense that it will make human being extinct. If anything, AI technology challenges humanity's ways of life. So that's what it challenged. People are going off and people are all alarmed. And I say to people, no, it challenges humanity's ways of life. Because when you look at the life that we have today, the dialectic of life, I said AI challenges humanity's ways of life centered around the dialectic of what? Whether we live to work or work to live. That's the dialectic. Whether we live to work or work to live. And the earnings or currencies we have tied to the weight we place on types of work. That's a profound point I'm making. Look at society that we have today and look at the society we have 200, 300, 400 years ago. 1,000 years ago. Before money, we had the barter system, yes? We had the barter system. Before money, we had the barter system. The people would exchange. But the barter system had problems. It came with some problems. But yet still, that's what we had. The barter system, where people would specialize in a particular craft. And before that, of course, we have agriculture. We had an agricultural society. The people would live off the land. And if there's anything outside of Africa, as society became a little bit more sophisticated, anything else outside of the land that they need to survive, then if a particular family is skilled in a particular craft, then those families in the communities would focus on that, and they would trade each other. However, there was an issue of value. the value, and then of course come currency, where they start to use currency and use and payments and valuing currencies, and all of that was all of that, the invention of currency and putting and valuing and putting a value to work and then a payment to that. Okay, and then human beings applying their various natures, making certain jobs better than other jobs, and then providing a certain value on some jobs over another job, and saying some jobs carries with it a certain amount of payment, and then creating a kind of life, a kind of based on class and categories, where if you occupy certain jobs carries with it certain values, and with that certain payment in the form of currency. Yes, and not only that, certain jobs is conducted by certain families. Yes, you see what's going on here. And then those, so therefore, if certain jobs is carries with it a particular kind of value, and by measured by currency, and historically certain families do certain jobs based on specialization, it would stand to reason that if those families and peoples that practice a certain skill that is exposed to that skill over time, their job, they will outdo another family, especially as society became consumer driven and product driven and capitalist driven. Okay, so okay, you see where I am going at, guys. You see what's going on here. We have, so as society, we developed society moving away from agrarian and industrial, and then service sector, so on and so forth, and making society, tying society to a kind of labor, a kind of work, and then human beings create society based on work. I mean, with certain types of work, and that work, okay, they make determinations as to what work is more valuable and what families do those work, and the payout that's associated with that. When you I mean, of course, so you can talk about the Rothschild and the various families that's wealthy, and some of these, when you start to study Karl Marx and the accumulation of capital, of course, some people, it wasn't from hard work that they arrived, or they gained the capital that they gained. It's through theft, and then they make laws to protect their ill-gotten gains, and then they created work and labor and tied value to that labor that all but continued their advantageous position. But so I say to you, that is what artificial intelligence challenge. It challenges the way how work is organized today. It challenges the way how life is organized today. How life is organized today. It challenges the dialectic of life. The dialectic of whether we live to work or work to live. But not just whether we live to work or work to live, because now, if it is that AI is going to replace us, if it is that AI is going to replace our skills and so on, then the question is, how will we be paid? I mean, that's part of the question. What jobs? Because that is why AI challenges human existence, because it challenges the dialectic of whether we live to work or work to live. But it only challenges the way how human beings are organized, and the earnings or currencies we have tied to the weight we place on the types of work, and the privilege that some people stand to lose. AI upends this dialectic, which means we must rethink the ways we have organized life. That's what needs to happen. But where's the political will to do that? Where is the urgency? Who is going to do that? Who is going to reorganize the life? Who is going to rethink the ways we have organized life? We have to do that. Even in the Caribbean, we talk about what's the Caribbean. It is the conversation I'm having with you right now Okay, it's a very important conversation. Think, okay, especially as a Caribbean person, thinking about what is the Caribbean being an invention, what we are today, and how are we going to be to what we are tomorrow, and we cannot divorce that kind of thinking and that kind of conversation from a practical and current question today as it relates to artificial intelligence technology, and whether or not AI technology poses a threat, not just to human existence, but to the Caribbean as well, given our vulnerability. Or does it provide an opportunity for us? And if I am saying to you, artificial intelligence does not threaten human existence, in other words, our survival, okay? What it really threatens is the way in which we organize life and the privileges and so on and so forth. So we have to rethink life. What about how Caribbean life is organized today? How will it threaten? How will that? How okay? Or will the Caribbean continue to remain as bucolic or as a middle level economy over the next 10 to 20 years? So that's not part of the conversation we're having. But of course, it's when we talk about the stages of development. I mean, artificial intelligence technology is part of if we hope to be competitive, then we may have to also embrace artificial intelligence technology in order for the Caribbean to become competitive. Part of the Caribbean problem is that we're not competitive. Okay. But of course, there's the conversation that people are having as to whether or not AI technology threatens humanity, our existence. And I say to you, and with the Caribbean, that's a valid question given our vulnerability and our size and what we have to deal with. Okay. And what we're dealing with today. More okay, and the fact that our lack of competitiveness. So therefore, that's a very good question. And but not only that, but just how AI technology will also help small startups. The Caribbean as a small startup in the sense that where we are geopolitical in terms of when we got our independence and where we are today, AI technology will help us. So that is part of the conversation we need to have as a country, as Caribbean peoples, as a class of academics who are contending for Caribbean issues, who we are, what we are today, what we will be tomorrow, and revisiting Caribbean. That's part of the conversation that we need to have. That's part of the conversation we also need to have with our governments, and with our institutions today. Okay. All right. So that is the first part of class. The first I wanted to spend some time to just quickly look at what's going on in the Caribbean today, look at what's going on in society, look at the conversations and the discussions people are having, and relate it back to what we are doing and the studies we're having in class. Okay. So now we are finished with the first part of class. Any questions as it relates to the quick discussion, or the last discussion I have about AI technology and whether or not it poses a threat to human existence today or tomorrow, and the opportunities it provides for the Caribbean? Any questions or any point you guys want to make as it relates to that?
Something that's, well, in the spaces that I have been in when that comes up is not necessarily how people will be affected in terms of way of life.
Yes.
The sense of morale that people will have.
Okay, that's another one I never looked at, morality. Yes.
Because it one of the big questions now is the question of integrity.
Yeah.
And so for me, I understand what you are saying, but for me, a big concern I have is if it will contribute to what is already a very bad state of like human laziness, and if it will make the world a more dishonest place. Because it has found its way into the classroom, based on conversations I have had. And for instance, like I've seen, even in watching YouTube videos, sir, of people using artificial intelligence to send a significant other a love letter, but it's like, but that's not coming from you. You've relied on something else to give that to another person. And for me, I see so far like persons making light of something that could really be a big problem in terms of integrity and morality.
Okay.
So for me, I feel like that could really be a big conversation piece in terms of navigating, because what I see is countries now having something else to implement in terms of governance and law and that type of thing. It's giving people more work to do. So what safeguards am I going to put in place? Just like how before, piracy never wasn't not an issue, but now piracy is an issue in terms of people's music. For me, I say, okay, schools, governments, businesses, what safeguards are we going to put in place to make sure that we are not hit? What safeguards are we going to put in place to ensure that the moral standard that we have set for ourselves, and not just necessarily as, in terms of an individual responsibility, but the standard and the cultural expectations that we want to uphold. How are we going to ensure that we do not lose ourselves and contribute to a global devastation with this thing that's, yeah. It makes me think of that movie. I don't know the name of it. I saw it as a child. But you know that movie with Will Smith where the robots like go nuts and like they're taking over the world. I don't know the name of it. But that's what it reminds me of. And it kind of freaks me out ever so slightly.
iRobot. The movie's name iRobot.
iRobot.
Okay. Yeah. It
Yeah.
gives iRobot vibes. And it kind of freaks me out.
Yes, yes. Anybody else? Thank you so much. And by the way, you made to artificial. You were speaking just now, Alicia. I talk about people writing love letters, and you can just go to the computer and ask the computer
Yeah.
to write a love letter to your significant other, and it writes it, and the computer writes it, and it sends it to the, and then to the question of, so you're speaking to the issue of artificial, the fake artificial versus real. Nothing is organic anymore. Nothing.
Yeah.
The fake versus truth. Well,
Yeah.
what is real?
What is
Real
real
now?
and
Now you don't know
unreal?
what is real versus what is unreal.
Exactly. It's like it contributes to scamming culture, or it can. And Jamaica already has a big enough issue with that already. So it's
Well,
like,
oh wow, that's a good question. You said it contributes to scamming culture or banduluism, as we used to call in Jamaica. Okay. But wow, that's interesting. So therefore, cultures like Jamaica, that's why I said to you in poor, sorry, not less developed countries or whatever. I guess it may help. I mean, people, it's already happened that people are using the technology to scam. So it facilitates that, yes, and much more quickly. But people used to buy cards. People used to go to the pharmacy and buy cards. How different is that from asking a computer to write a love letter? What's different from
really is not.
what if, Alicia, what if somebody say that to you? People, we've always done that. We've always asked, we've gone to the shop to buy cards. What's the difference between this generation now asking the computer? People might say it's just a generational gap issue. The younger people are saying it's just a generational issue with generation.
I don't know.
Older generation, which has been a historical thing, where every time something new or anytime there's a change in the technology or a change in people's way of life or whatever, there's the older generation always have a problem accepting it and changing and so on.
I'm in my 20s, so I don't know if I would be considered a part of the older
Oh,
generation.
okay, good. All right, so fine, you all right. But there are those who say yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think that's a good point that you've raised, but I think, I don't know, it's something I'd have to think about some more, where the person just, and the way that the person did it was done in a way that for me that was very not okay. So maybe it could have been, because for me, I'm looking at it from the point of view of you going into the store and you are choosing for yourself this card that it expresses a sentiment that I probably myself could not have expressed if I was to use my own words. Versus going to artificial intelligence and saying, all right, write my girlfriend a letter and I want you to talk about, oh, you love her and how she's this. Okay, go. If you get what I'm saying, it just feels so inauthentic. But I
Well,
get
it
what
could,
you're
yeah.
saying. I get what you're saying in
Well,
terms of them being like the same two sides of the same coin.
you just have to be able to curate now. The 20. So I talk about changing, looking at how we look at things in society, look at how we learn. Okay, one of the things that we have to change how the way we learn. We have to change the way, I mean, the requirements we put on people in terms of learning now. Because I think part of the problem is society, AI will forces us to now reconsider how we do things and systems and formats. Say, for example, universities shouldn't be charging huge sums of money now to go to college and to get things done and to learn and so on, because we have the technology. Say, for example, I mean, you have YouTube. We have YouTube channel where you can go to YouTube and say, hey, how do I change my brakes? You don't need to go pay a man to go change brakes now. You can do it, okay, yourself.
True.
I mean, AI technology provides a lot of ways where now you don't have to rely on external services, especially, as I said to you again, people who are not as wealthy, who may find it useful to use the technology. And then again, you have to have access to money to access the technology. That's another discussion we need to have. Are they going to make the technology so expensive that only certain people have access to it? But that's the question we're left with. One other thing that we have to point out, talk about the issue of moral standards, and whether I think one of the things we were pointing to is how it facilitates or it can lead to that. How
Yes, sir.
people, if one of the things I said, say for example, one of the problem I have with artificial intelligence, say for example, writing, in terms of writing in a class, people cannot write. When people used to write papers, you would use books and so on and so forth, but you have to be able to document, and a lot of effort is done to ensure that students document well, okay? Documenting and referencing and sourcing and giving credit to other people's work and so on. There is a whole classes, discipline is developed to ensure that certain formats and rules are followed when you borrow from other people's work and use things that's external to you. Artificial, I think what the kind of discussions that we need to have as it relates to artificial intelligence, the same thing needs to happen with artificial intelligence. If somebody uses artificial intelligence to write something or to develop something, there has to be academia, the academic industry must develop a way to reference this or to source this or to flag it or to say, hey, the information that was presented utilizing AI technology. Okay, there has to be, probably that's one of the ways if people are having a problem with plagiarism and so on and so forth. I think that's one of the things that we will have to do. But I don't know if that's going to be possible. But I think that's one of the things that we may have to explore. What you guys think about that? And by the way, one more thing. Say for example, about the self-driving cars, the Teslas, and I used to drive a Tesla.
I hate that. I think I watched too many movies.
No, but I used to drive a Tesla, and there are problems with the problem with the Tesla, and some of the Tesla in the US was not as good as the Tesla in Germany. Some of the European countries, I heard that Teslas were picking up people and driving nobody in the front before the steering wheel. And I said to people, the problem with the Tesla, that why self-driving cars don't work, is we have to fix the roadways, but not just the roadways. We have to fix people, change people, the way people think, the way people drive, so people's attitudes. So we will have to do a lot of work in terms of reorganizing people, how they think, the attitudes on the roadways, and we have to also change the roadways to make them facilitate the transition. That's why self-driving cars, there was a lot of accidents and so on, because the roadways and the people aren't ready. So in order so what needs to happen is that as we think about artificial technology, the technology is moving way ahead of society in terms of the preparation that needs to happen. And what about the Caribbean? Where's the Caribbean in terms of all of this, all of the, where's the Caribbean? Yes, Alicia, somebody said brainwashing. What? Mass brainwashing. Who is talking about mass brainwashing? Who said that? What do you mean by mass brainwashing?
I mean, like, if you're going to change how people think or whatever, you just like social media where
Ah,
it's
okay.
basically mass brainwashing. You have to do something like that for people to work
You know what?
how
You are
they want
right,
it to work.
Gavion. Yes, but you know, brainwashing connotates something negative. So you are right, but I wouldn't use the word brainwashing because brainwashing is brainwashing, but it is
Just say
brainwashing
mass education.
and mass education. Brainwashing is not far. It's not wrong doing it. It's okay. It's good. But the word connotates like a kind of suspicion or ulterior motive toward a particular
It's
end.
always using a negative
Yes,
frame
the negative. So let's say mass education. Yes, yes, Gavion.
or public
Yes,
education.
Felmin. Yes, we're gonna have, and that needs to have. Now, is that possible in the Caribbean? Is that possible in Jamaica? Is
S-
that?
s- Sir, while I was sitting back along
And
with the
I'm
bright
happy
spots.
that we're having this conversation because we're about to move into the research that you guys have to do. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, while I was sitting on listening to bright spots, Gavian and Miss Magnus talking, I can't help but wonder, is
Yeah.
this there's always the pros and the cons to things. So artificial intelligence does have its place. Yes, it makes life easier. There's a lot of benefit, especially if it is utilized in the right way, like the in the like the technological field or so on. But
Yes.
some of the companies use them to like the automated systems, to answer the phone calls and all of that.
Yes.
But there's always this drawback to it. It No matter how good it is, the human element, the feel, the ability to apply the human element to it is always going to be a factor. Um, Say, for example, they make a robot to work in a clothes or a shoe store or whatever. Yes, it's going to be programmed to greet you and all of that. But it can only go so far, and no man, it robs that experience. They rob that one-to-one experience. It can't think and feel for itself outside of what it is programmed to do, right? Then there's also gonna be the issue of how can the Caribbean afford it, right? Remember this is a machine. When it breaks down, how feasible it is, one, to acquire it and to maintain it. That's where I'm going. All right. Um, the other part of it, um, it lends to laziness, as you said, as you were hinting at, in terms of using it to write a paper or so on. I've used it, but when I say, for example, I just type in something, I say type this and I put in what I would want. When I reach through it, I have to go back through it and literally basically reconstruct it, because
That is, yeah.
it's not giving me, while it gives me some fancy word and a framework where to start at, I really have to go back through it and basically rewrite the paper. So why the sense of having it? So it depends on which side of the coin you're looking at it from. But I don't. It's gonna cause a lot of problem. And as you said, when you bring into the human element, so you have a non-human entity driving versus a human driving, and the same scenario presents itself. The computer is programmed to respond another way, but then the human entity may respond in an unpredictable way, because person respond to changes differently, fight or flight. The person you're driving and a pothole come up, sometimes person tend to want to swerve. The robot may just continue in it or brake. So it's not a lot of chaotic. I don't see how it can work seamlessly. So I don't see it. It's gonna take a while. And as somebody said, mass education or public education and all of that. But yes, it has its good, depending on how it's used, but it's not something you can totally rely on.
Let me ask a question. What's the conversations around artificial intelligence in Jamaica and the Caribbean today? How actively engaged our Jamaicans and the public in terms of having the conversation about the technology, the threats, the opportunities, and what it means for the Caribbean and what and so on. Is it that are they having the conversation in the Caribbean in churches, on the streets, in the homes, and so on and so forth? And what has been the policy towards AI technology in Jamaica and the Caribbean? Can anybody answer that?
From my estimation, it's in the infancy stage. Yes, it is being explored. People are learning how to use it and all of that, but it's still in the infancy stage. There's a lot more to be desired. There's a far way to go. That's
Yeah.
from my perspective. Others can say on.
So there is AI technology in Jamaica in terms of you guys use Chat GPT and various technology. Yes,
Yeah.
it's technology. Okay, that's good. That's good. How long has AI or Chat Chat GPT and other open AI been in Jamaica systems?
I learned about Chat GPT last year, but it has been here for a while.
Okay.
There are other things like so it's been a while. It's been a while. And I know persons use Quillbot. Quillbot can do basically the same thing.
So in Jamaica and the Caribbean, there is access, especially in Jamaica, broad-based access towards the technology. But it's not so in all Caribbean islands. So for example,
Well, I can't speak for I can't speak for
part
them.
of Venezuela, Dominican Republic, and so on and so forth. They do not, even part of Bahamas as well. Some parts are just getting electricity, and they're closer to Miami than us. You know, I understand that one person in my class lived in Bahamas for a while, and some parts still don't have electricity, and she had to go outside and use to get Wi-Fi. Quite interesting that we still have that in parts of the Caribbean, the global south. But I have a question. You had said something, and I made a point while you were speaking just now. But, and I wanted to ask you a question. But it can't be. Oh, I said we have to pass a policy to protect. Oh, okay. I said, if artificial in technology, which extends to robotic technology, if the technology, if that becomes part of our daily lives eventually, it's here in the US and the Caribbean, we have to pass policy to protect jobs. I know in the UK and in the UK and in Europe, they are way ahead in terms of the discussions and the conversation surrounding artificial intelligence and passing regulation that will help to protect people, to protect jobs, but also they have passed regulation not just to protect jobs and people and to protect people and people's interests, but they've also passed regulation that would also promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms. And by the way, ChatGPT, the company that is part of OpenAI, was developed as part of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. But we have to think about passing policy to protect jobs. So one of the ways we have to start having the conversation and start thinking about the opportunities that we have, and also the challenge and some of the threats, and find ways of responding to these. We have to start the conversation now and start slowly making the adjustments towards certain modus operandi, mode of doing things, so that we can facilitate some of the change that's necessary and needed. But what the point I'm making is that let's just say we are passing policy to protect jobs because they said AI will take away people's job or replace people's job. So let's say we pass a policy to protect jobs. But I say to people, it cannot be a broad brush. You know what the problem with our politicians today is that they're not academics, they don't think philosophically. They pass policies and then think about the implications afterwards. Say, for example, if you're going to pass policy to protect jobs, say for example, a writing company, a news organization is not allowed to hire or use artificial intelligence technology to write its stories. It has, for every story that's published, it has to have 80% of human touch. let us say we publish, we create, and they create a law, a policy like that. I said to people, it cannot be general. But the problem that we have a tendency of creating regulation, policies, and laws that is general, and okay, because you have large news organizations, and you have mid-level news organizations, and you have very small businesses and startups. The policy to regulate businesses' use of artificial intelligence technology cannot be general or broad. It has to be very unique, because that same if we develop a general policy about artificial intelligence technology use in a news organization, then we may protect the interest of workers or writers who want to work at a large organization, but the small organizations, that law does not protect the small startup interests, because they are not in a position, because of their bottom line, because they're not earning as much money in order to hire. There are those large companies that is exploiting artificial intelligence technology, okay, where they can afford to hire and pay people, but they are exploiting the technology, okay. So therefore you're gonna need legislation to regulate that kind of behavior. It's not the technology that you are regulating now, it's the behavior. I said to people, the Bible didn't say that. The Bible does not support slavery, but people use it to support slavery, okay. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Guns are tools. So what we need to talk about is we need to regulate behavior. So therefore, if large organizations should not rely on artificial technology, we should have a regulation where 80% of their businesses, or 50% or 40% of their business utilize artificial intelligence technology, 60% use humans. While a smaller business, lower size businesses would be given a grace period of 20 years, or how many years, or depending on their size and their profit margin, will be allowed to utilize artificial intelligence technology. But then a larger business might come in and say, well, that's a problem. Because if a smaller business now can have no limitations and restrictions to its access to AI technology, while another business only is limited by in terms of 40%, 30%, then that business is going to rival their bottom line, and that's a problem. But of course, that's competition. That's fair competition. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is not a plausible argument. That makes no sense. A larger company cannot say, well, if you provide those limitations or latitude for smaller business to be able to have that kind of access, then it will pose a threat to us. Then that means they will outrival us. No, we want them to get to a certain level where they can provide, and once they get to a certain level, then the legislation will apply to them. But when people want to maintain a particular dominance, then certain kind of legislation, any generalization or legislation that is unique does not serve certain people's interests. So then when we begin, so that is why we need to start having the conversations now about these issues, so that when we begin to legislate and to regulate, we don't get it wrong, and we're not behind. Okay. So this is very important to the conversation that we need to have. Any more comments on this? We're going to take a quick 5 minutes break. Then when we come back, I am going to okay, I sent a link in the class. We are going to take a 5 minutes break. When I come back, I'm going to begin talking about your research, and I'm going to have you guys from about actually from 5:45 to 6. So no, sorry, what time is it in Jamaica right now?
It's 4:31.
All right. So from 4:45 to about 6:15, 6:30, I'm gonna have you guys complete a questionnaire. And then at 6:30 we come back and wrap up. Okay. And you can talk about your experiences, how you thought about it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 15 minutes break. We come back at 5:45, which is 4:45 your time. And then I'm gonna begin. There's a link that I'm gonna resend to you guys. You're gonna spend the rest of the class completing it until 6:30, or just half hour before the class ends. We come back, and I'm gonna talk about the experiences, and then we end the class. So but we're gonna have you complete that. But we're gonna take a quick 5 to 10 minutes break. We come back in 15 minutes, and then we will I will begin. Actually, no, that's too long. Plus, we started class late. We'll take a 10 minutes break. We come back in 10 minutes. Okay.